Hi, my name is Suzy Meyer Page, and I've been asked to do a video for Aortic Hope. I am a 20-year aortic dissection survivor. I ended up at age 31 having a type A dissection and eventually had a type B dissection also. Like I said, I was 31 at the time. I was living in Lincoln, Nebraska. I was on my way to one of my best friend's weddings in Houston. Ended up having a layover in Kansas City, which ended up being a layover overnight because I missed my connecting flight. I was on the payphone. This is before cell phones. So I was on the payphone talking to my husband about what had happened and that I was going to have to go and get a motel room and those kinds of things. All of a sudden, I started to lose consciousness in and out. Felt a sharp pain in the middle of my back. My husband obviously starts freaking out because he doesn't know what's going on. I remember it was later at night, so there wasn't a lot of people in the area I was at, and I remember slapping on the side of the payphone trying to get someone's attention, and I can still picture this looked like a middle-aged kind of pudgy guy come, and he noticed I was in distress, and they called an ambulance. When the ambulance got there, I think because I was 31 and a female flying alone, missing a connecting flight, they of course made the assumption that I was having a panic attack. I had never had a panic attack before then. I've had them since, but did not really think it was a panic attack. I remember sitting there thinking there's something wrong with my heart or something's going on. So I convinced the EMT to take me to the hospital to be checked anyway, even though the unconsciousness had stopped by that point in time, and my vitals were pretty stable also at that time. So they took me to a hospital, to the ER, not too far from the airport. I was there, I think, for several hours. They were going under the assumption that I had a panic attack and that during the panic attack, I strained my back and that's what's causing the pain. I kept on telling them I didn't think it was a panic attack, but really couldn't convince anyone. So I ended up getting like 2 or 3 different types of pretty hardcore medications and wasn't touching the pain, but they still released me. I don't think I even got an x-ray, to be honest. I think I just, it was solely just by, verbally checking me out. So I ended up getting a cab, going to going to the hotel room, which was near the airport, near the hospital. Still in pain. They had told me that I could use heat to try to help with the pain. Well, I'm traveling, don't have a heating pad with me, so I kept on taking these like warm, hot showers, which would give me a little bit of relief from the pain. So I probably did that overnight, I don't know, 3 or 4 different times, get undressed, get in the shower, sit there for a period, or actually sit in the shower for a period of time, and then get dried off, dressed again, and go back to bed. I had called my husband once I got to the hotel going, well, I guess there's nothing wrong with me and I'm going to fly tomorrow morning. At one point, I ended up kind of coming to in the motel room, and I was like kind of sprawled out. I think what had happened is I had gotten out of the shower and was getting ready to get back into the bed and passed out. But as I was laying there, the pain had gone away. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to actually maybe get some sleep now. It was maybe a couple hours before I had to get up to fly. And then I realized, wait, I'm lying here weird. What's, kind of what's going on. And I swear that I was not alone. My Aunt Helen, who had passed, and my cat Patches, for whatever reason, I feel like both of them were there with me, and my Aunt Helen was kind of saying, get up off your butt, go call the front desk and have them get an ambulance. And so that's what I did, because I realized that, yeah, this is not right. I called down there. They got an ambulance. I remember it was an effort to get to the phone. I'll go back and lay down, and then they called me saying, hey, we need to know what your symptoms are. And I was like, just come here. I was in great distress at that point. So they came. I could hear the ambulance coming down the road because I wasn't that far from the hospital, and knew that, okay, something's coming and someone's coming to help me. So they came and they took me back to the same hospital. I was in more distress then, and for whatever reason, they decided to do a CT scan, and they're like, okay, she has had an aortic dissection. And so they took me by ambulance to another hospital in Kansas City, which had a specialist that could do the surgery on me. Supposedly, I can't remember his name anymore. Dr. Gordon, maybe. He was like on call, and he was probably the best person to do that surgery. He had the most experience with it. So I'm at the hospital. I'm doped up, so, I'm like not feeling any pain anymore. And they're talking to me about how, do you want a pig valve? Do you want a mechanical valve? If you have a mechanical valve, gonna have to be on blood thinners, probably can't have children. I'm sitting there going, oh, we'll just adopt, whatever. And calling my husband, I feel bad for him. He's still in Lincoln, has to drive down to Kansas City, which is about a 3-hour drive. He says, well, whatever she wants to do. And they were like, she's kind of doped up, and saying it's okay to do mechanical because they were telling me it would last longer than a pig valve would. So we went mechanical, had the surgery. That surgery seemed to go fairly well. Went home, I was recovering, and then I ended up having fluid around my heart. They had to remove the fluid around my heart. They pumped me up with a bunch of plasma to thicken my blood, which resulted in me getting a clot, was what they think, because while I was in the hospital, this was in Lincoln at this time, while I was in the hospital, I coded because a clot, what they think happened is a clot was stuck on my valve, not allowing it to open and close, and that made me code, and then it broke off and went into my lungs. So at that point, I was in the hospital, I think 2 or 3 weeks after that. My kidneys were, my whole body was affected. It was a pretty significant incident. So that was in 2000. Yes, 2000 that occurred. I go home, I was able to recover, did cardiac rehab. Things are going okay. I kind of thought, the worst had happened. Then during a echo, like an annual echocardiogram, discovered that, and this was by accident, the tech that was doing it kind of went further than he normally would have and saw that there was a dissection starting to occur with the aorta from the arch down into the abdomen. And so I was in Pennsylvania living at that time, so went to Pittsburgh, and they're like, yeah, we're going to treat you as if you have Marfan's, even though I've never officially been diagnosed Marfan's, just because I've had the dissection, and they don't want to mess around with a stent or anything like that. So scheduled me for surgery. I knew at that point was going to have 2 surgeries, because they wanted to eventually to have the aorta replaced all the way down into my groin area. So had that surgery at Presby in Pittsburgh. Lots of complications with that. I was there for like a month. I had a seizure the night of. I was on a ventilator for 2 weeks. I had a trach. It was not good. A lot worse could have happened, and I know that, so I'm fortunate, but it was, didn't go the greatest. So came home, was monitored for a few more years, knowing that I was going to have that went to the abdomen, they replaced to the abdomen, and then I knew I was going to have another surgery, and they monitored that for a few years, and then 2012 is when I went in, and the thoracic surgeon said we need to have another surgery done to repair the rest of the aorta. So I had that surgery. That initial recovery was excellent. The doctor wanted to keep me there for, I think it was 2 weeks, because there's the risk of paralysis happening, I guess, within the 2 weeks after surgery. And he had a patient that had that sent them home, and then they became paralyzed. So he wanted me to be there, but I was doing so well. He's like, oh, I was there less than 2 weeks. He was like, things are going well. So went home in, like I said, I think it was about 2 weeks. Went home initially, and the recovery was going okay. Started cardiac rehab again, and then started having lots of breathing issues. I wasn't on a high blood pressure med after I left the hospital, and ended up through a bunch of tests, found out that the rejection fraction was not right, or I can't remember. I can't remember all the specifics, but basically that they put me back on the blood pressure med. That seemed to help. I was on oxygen full time for about a year and a half. I'm still on oxygen. It's part-time, mostly when I go up and down stairs or I'm walking any distance. Other than that, my stats are okay. So that's kind of my story. So I've been living with this for 20 years, doing the blood thinner check once a month at least, going to the doctor appointments. But I'm very grateful for the care I got in Kansas City initially, and then also in Pittsburgh, because I wouldn't be here without it. I also appreciate Aortic Hope in raising awareness. So my hope is that no one else ever has to have a misdiagnosis and die, because I know that happens. I was very fortunate, so I know I very well could have been a statistic of one of those ones that passed away. So thank you for listening, and have a good day.